Welcome, friend. If you are joining me in the self-mastery movement, welcome back. If you are joining me for this one-off course or lecture, I'd also like to welcome you. So today what we are going to talk about in this module or in this course is that we are all, of course, designed uniquely, but we are actually designed to care, to love, and to be sexual in different ways. And at the time of this recording, the reason that this is being created at this moment is I have had numerous clients come to me for relationship sessions so that they can understand, why do they want to leave their husband? Why are they so infatuated with the person in their life that they just can't let them go? So this was created to, introduce you to the beauty of our mechanics. Now, if this is, if you're watching this in the self-mastery movement, this was always going to be a part of it. It is, it's kind of happening outside of the sequences that I have been doing. Anyways, let's move on. So I'm going to give you a ton of information today, okay? So I am going to share with you so much information, and I'm also going to, in the next module, we are going to do a ton of experimental charts so that you can see exactly how this plays out. But what I want you to really grasp is information is not power, okay? In the human design system, Rahu, he really indicates the fact that if we cannot be honest with ourselves, if we cannot actually allow for the beauty of our strategy and authority to be the end-all be-all of how we navigate on this plane, all of this information is just going to become, a mind fuck for your life. It's gonna, the mind is gonna say, hey, but it's like this. Hey, it's like this. And then all of a sudden it's gonna pull you into places and things that are not good for you. So the whole point of the human design system is to introduce you to the mechanics of your frequency so that you, the experiencer, can begin to recognize or watch yourself in the world. When we truly trust the mechanics and have absolutely no shame in the way we operate, this will be the turning point of humanity. One of the things that Ra always says, this is not about morality. We have no idea, how or why the inner authority takes us to places that it does. Just does. Even in the awareness center, we can be aware, but we're not in the future reading the future. We're just designed to be right here, right now, witnessing our physical body experience, tread on this planet, have interaction, bump into things, make mistakes, be shy, be powerful. All these different things are designed to happen. And if the mind gets in the way and says, quit being so shy, all of a sudden, the mind is running the show. So outer authority is the ability to communicate with absolute honesty this language and this knowledge. You cannot be honest in your mind. You cannot be honest if your mind is running your life, which means your sexuality and your caring will not be honest. It always comes back to the same thing: strategy and authority. Liberate the vehicle, give it its life, allow it to be what it is, and free the passenger so that you have something worthy to offer the other. Your uniqueness, the acuity of your differentiated consciousness. So the not-self world has done a huge disservice to the human experience. Homogenized love, homogenized caring, homogenized sexuality is what we see in the world. It is not the clean, amoral, mechanical energy that it is intended to be. Now, talking about, mechanics and mechanical energy, it feels very cold, and yet it can be the most warming thing when we are not operating through the mental plane pushing ourselves, convincing ourselves that we're letting the strategy and authority operate our lives, convincing ourselves that, this is the way it should be or that's the way it should be. This is truly about taking a 30,000 foot view and witnessing how the beauty of this physical body can and will navigate on this plane if we just allow it to do so. So what I want you to really grasp is that when you have two different charts, so I'm going to be showing you my husband and myself a lot in this, and then I'm also going to be showing you lots and lots of examples so that you can see it all play out. But because this is the relationship that I'm most dissecting, I guess, at this time, this is why I bring this to you so that you can see it from an experiential eye, as well as I'm in it. So you might be able to see something here that I don't see. And what I would love is, comment on that, bring that information forward, because how we learn is through conversing with each other. And the biggest part here is that there is no shame. Human design is not about being shameful of who you are. It is about, this is who I am, and honoring that. Okay? So when two people come together, there is a third aura that is created. This is the connection chart. This connection chart can be two people who are in a romantic relationship, a business relationship, a family member, a friend, etc., your child. We're in this individual aura, and then we become this third aura here. And then if you are in the self-mastery movement, what you learn is that there's the penta, which is also another transauric form. And then we have the wa, which is our sociology, our larger transauric form that is created. But for this particular course, we are going to just look at connection charts. So one of the things to recognize about the understanding the mechanics is that you yourself can begin to distinguish between what is impersonal that you can fall for and what is impersonal that you need to live out without feeling guilty. So when we bond with the other correctly, only then do we become one thing. It is so important to really comprehend that first and foremost, you must know your own strengths, which are the channels here. You must know how each one of these centers is operating in your life, and you must be following the strategy and authority. If that's not happening, if the strategy and authority is not being the guide, whatever I share here, I will guarantee you is going to try its very, very hardest to pull you down paths that aren't good for you, because the mind is going to say, well, she said this, or this is what Ra indicated, or this is how this is supposed to work. I'm going to give you lots of examples, but the what, I can give you the what all day long through the mechanical piece of this. It is the how. How is that going to show up? Because it's a holistic view. As someone who is a holistic analyst and a variable teacher, this kind of stuff, again, there is not just one specific way. There's numerous ways for this to present itself. So we are going to first look at the gates of love. So we are in this illusion of separateness, okay? So the magnetic monopole that actually resides here in the G center, this really is what holds us together and what moves us along our path. So whether or not you have the G center defined doesn't matter. Everybody has all of these aspects within them. Okay, it is just whether or not they're activated. So everybody has a magnetic monopole. Doesn't matter if your G center is defined or not. Okay, And what the magnetic monopole, like I say, what it does is it holds us together. It holds that personality side, and it holds that design side together in this illusion. So we have the design, which is the suit and the body, and the personality, which is the psychology. It binds them together so that we can have this quantum experience. And then it moves us along our trajectory. We are all designed to have a quote-unquote fractal, a group of people that we are designed to bump into so that we can fulfill our purpose. And that's what the magnetic monopole does. Only when the mind no longer is running the show will this really become apparent. The magnetic monopole is always holding us together. It's always moving us along our path. But mental decision making will definitely, either put massive hurdles, walls, whatever that is on our path. Clear strategy and authority, you might have a speed bump or two, but you're on the correct trajectory. So in the beginning, the design crystal, which resides here in the Ajna center, and the magnetic monopole reside together within the Earth's core. At time of conception, there is a call to pull it into the womb to create the human form. So love at its core is about wholeness. Because there is a separation of the design crystal and the magnetic monopole, we lose love. And we yearn to get back to that wholeness. And this is why those people that have those near-death experiences say the love that they felt during those experiences is nothing that they've ever felt before on planet Earth. So love is a very loose term as we walk through here, as we will never really know love until we die. It is still beautiful how we connect, but lumping everything together as love or not can get very dangerous. So what we are going to do is we are going to explore these 10 ways, which there's actually 11 because the 10th gate operates in more than one way. We're gonna explore these 10 gates of love so that you can see the themes of these play out. If any of these gates are present within a connectivity or partnership chart, this is where you will have the assumption or love emerge. Have the assumption of love, emerge. Okay, so most of us will have a fixed theme of love in our lives. Some may not have absolutely any of these gates. So there just is no fixed theme. For example, our reflectors. Some of them may not have any of these 10 traits. So, or you and I, a manifesting generators, projectors, some of us might not have any of these. So once we have a connectivity to that theme, this is how we will begin to experience love. This is going to be difficult for the nut self to come to terms with, and yet the surrendering of the true self has no challenge with it, as the true self can just witness it with no judgment, no shame, no nothing, no morality. The themes not activated will drive your mind crazy. So the themes that are activated will emerge, and you can see them clearly. So as a binary, remember, these are the gates of love and always the gates of hates. I love you and I don't love you. This is like a built-in protection, as this is how these gates discern what is right and what is wrong. So it is okay. It is absolutely okay to have that, wavering between I love you, I don't love you. This is how we are designed to discern. So there's this age-old theme in relationship. That age-old theme is that one loves one more than the other, and it can become an issue. So let's give you an example. So you have a hanging gate in an open center like this particular chart here. This is a dormant potential. And this requires the gate at the other end as an electromagnetic to connect it. Okay, so it's looking for the 37 and it's looking for the 5. You love that person more because this feels like this is the one to love. You are here to learn about these love connections that come into your life. So if that same hanging gate, okay, the same hanging gate is in a defined center, you do not need the other. Your gate of love is already working. The theme is already there. And it is just exploring the connectivity with the other. Knowing this information allows you to let it happen and experience it. Watch the magic. Okay? So if you're, brand new to this and you have no idea what I'm talking about, anytime we have an undefined center with a gate that is hanging, those are called dormant potentials. This is not you. You're here to learn the wisdom of this information and this energy as it flows through you. How you're going to learn that is by connecting up with those people or transits on the other end of that channel. So for example, the 5, so somebody with a fixed rhythm comes in and teaches you about the extremes that you experience in life. The 37, family, friends, they come in and they teach you what deliverance and denial is all about. You're going to filter your experiences through anything that is hanging off of these open areas. It isn't you. It is a place for you to gain wisdom, okay? So the hooks, like the 10 and 40, are not, that should say 15 and 40, okay? Are not a natural place, for example, 1, to have love. It's just not natural. It would actually be the 44 in both of these examples that actually is the fixed way that you are designed to have love. So I'm bringing this to you just so that you can see it. So as we move through, you can start to go, things can start to settle into your cellular structure, okay? So these hanging opportunities will pull you in so that you can learn. But once the other person leaves, all of a sudden you feel unwhole again. Some people have only hanging love gates, and this is a deep yearning. This becomes an obsession to connect with the other, to feel whole. The point of knowing the mechanic is to understand this is at a cellular level, and the mental level, the correctness of your connections, the correctness of your love will show itself. Knowing this information intellectually is not the point. It is to experience it. So I'm bringing this to you here before we drop into all of the mechanical understanding of it, before we drop into the experimentation in the next module, because I want you to be able to grasp if it's hanging, if you have a hanging gate in an undefined center, and we're going to go through all of these traits here in this love aspect. If it's hanging there and it's waiting, know that this is going to be a deep place of yearning. And when you meet the other, you feel like, oh, it's the one. It's totally the one. But it is about honoring the strategy and authority in order for this particular person to really hone in on, is this the right? Okay, so again, as we walk through, just take a breath, relax, don't try to figure any of this out, write your notes, and then we will see how this all plays out. So we have the anti-mundane love. So this is the vessel of love gates. It transcends love, and rarely does it feel personal love. This is the connectivity through the G center, and it is the transcendent, transpersonal connectivity that goes beyond identifying with another. You have any of these 4 gates, okay? Now the 10, I'm going to tell you, it's also over here in the mundane. But if you have any of these 4 possibilities here, this is about finding love through someone, The love is not necessarily in that being. It is happening through that being. On the flip side, when loving stops loving, it is very cool. These people end up under a lot of pressure to love differently, and they are accused of being shallow in their love. Now, why do I say when loving stops loving? The whole point of the vessel of love and these 4 particular gates, they are loving. It isn't about I love. This is about I am loving through whatever that aspect is, and we're going to get into the aspects. So now what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to I'll just show you the example with my husband, just so that you can grasp it a little easier, okay? So he has the 46. I have the 29. So he naturally has loving for the form, for the vehicle, for the vessel, okay? But it isn't about, oh, he loves somebody's body. It is about the love of the body, and he can find that love through the other. So, for example, he really doesn't take very good care of his body. I of course do my best to, provide him with the high quality meals, provide him with whatever, but he smokes cigarettes and he drinks alcohol. And this, his physical body, if you were to see him, you would have no idea that he is actually the age that he is. He actually looks younger. However, where he finds his loving for any vessel, for the form period, for the body period, he actually can find it through me, through my commitment to discovering the health and the wellness of a physical body. Now, I do my best to take very good care of my body. I eat high quality foods. I eat high vibe fruits and vegetables, and I just do my best to take care of my vessel. And that's how he is able to understand, express the loving of the form. He's doing it through me, okay? So again, don't get too caught up in everything. Just bear with me as we walk through this. So now the mundane gates, okay? So this is where these gates demand a personal connection. This is where the illusion of love comes from. These gates are looking for love with somebody. They are looking for love to emerge through the theme associated with it, okay? Again, now I'm going to pop you into, so for example, my 40th gate that hangs here in a defined center. Naturally, this is how I find love with the other. How do I do that? I find love with the other by earning it. I earn other people's love. I know you're like, what? You're going to understand this when we walk through the mechanics of it. But this is how I naturally find love with the other. My husband is loving. He's not actually looking for love with the other. My particular energy is actually looking for love with the other. I'm here to earn love from the other by working for them. And again, this is all working. This happens. It is nothing that I make happen. It's always been happening. Okay, so now let's go to the anti-mundane. We are going to go and we're going to take a look at these 4 traits or gates, and then we're going to, continue to walk through this so that you can see love. So the anti-mundane, the nature of love in the vessel of love is about loving. These gates are not about loving the other, okay? This is about finding love through the other. It is anti-mundane. It's not on this mundane plane. It's transcendent love. These people are literally looking beyond you for a greater love. And the way they search for this love is by being loving. It doesn't mean that they don't love you. It just means that they are loving in general. So for example, go back to my husband's chart. He's actually a manifester. So inside his closed bubble that is, closed and it's repelling, there's a loving nature inside of there. So some manifestors don't have that aspect. So inside that closed, repelling bubble, that loving isn't there. But for example, my husband, it is. So his energy feels and presents itself differently than someone who doesn't have any one of these particular traits. Okay? So, in his chart, he actually has two. He has 25 and he has 46. But I just brought you the 46 in the example. Okay. So you can loving within your group of friends. You can be loving within your group of friends. But that doesn't mean that you love them. It is not personal. This loving is actually a general energy. So if you hold the 57, the 34, the 5, the 29, or the 51, know that you will attract in loving, but it is not personal. So if you are caught up in trying to make it personal, the relationship will always be difficult. When you meet these gates, this love is not for you, but it is just nice to be in the presence of this loving. Transcendent love is a love that doesn't have to be personal to feel good. Okay, now I'm going to switch back and forth just so that you guys can really grasp that. So naturally, I attract in through this 29 and my 34, I naturally attract in this loving aspect of those that have the 10 and the 46. I just naturally attract that in. Just so happens that my husband has that. So I attract into my life these very loving people. I have had a beyond blessed life. I have lots and lots and lots of these loving people in my world. Tons. And the 29, so grab your charts, right? Be walking through this as I'm talking. The 29 for me, for my particular chart, is actually my personality sun. So it's my core essence. So I naturally attract in these people with the 46. Just happens, so that we can have this discovery process together. That's the keynote of the 2946. But it's not as though, and this sounds ridiculous, but my husband doesn't love me. He is loving in my presence. Does that make sense? Okay, so now let's take a look at the 25. So the 25 is a place for loving. What is one of the keynoting? The identity center. The keynoting of the identity center is right place, right time, right people. It's always about place because the identity center is holding us together in the illusion and it is placing us in our trajectory. So place is huge. So this is the love that is in the very first order within the mandala. It is the original love per se. Okay? This is about being loving in the universe. It is about having a place to be loving towards what everything is, but it is not personal. So again, my husband has the 5125. He just has this loving, not personal. He loves, I shouldn't even say he loves me just as much as he loves his tractors. He just has this overall arching, it's just this sense of loving for it all. Nothing takes precedent, okay? So this is the priest and the shaman. They are loving. They don't love you. They love the larger aspect. So God, Buddha, Allah, whatever it is. And they get there by being loving. So again, the 51 and the 25 is part of our mystical way. So those in the self-mastery movement, you guys know this. Part of the mystical way. So this is about initiating oneself, being initiated into the 10, 20, which is all about the awakening. So this is a part of the mystical way. And this mystical way isn't about being in love or, loving one particular person. This is about being loving in the whole dynamic of it all. So if this is in your chart, recognize your loving nature and do not make apologies for it. If this is in your spouse's chart, you want to make it personal, and it's not designed that way. Of course, I'm with this man. I've been with this man for 28 years. I want him to love me, but I know after that long trying to demand that love, trying to demand it be personal, is absolutely futile. Like it's not there. It's transcendent love. It is something that needs to be initiated. This is, of course, the keynote for the quarter and for the channel. This is about initiating love, and it's about initiating love transpersonally, in the impersonal sense. This is initiating loving. As an individual gate, there's a romance, and that is that unrequited love. You know, my husband is never going to love me, but he is going to be loving through me. That's a big, big deal, you guys. Because if you can see how these play out, there's no more blame. If you have one of these, I have tons and tons of right angle cross vessel of love people in my life. Lots of them. And they are just loving beings. You want to have a hug from these people because within their energy field, it's loving. So again, as I say, my husband's a manifester. He's that innovator. He's here to make an impact. But his impact has a different feeling. You know, he's loving inside of that. You know, Ra always says, well, you know, manifestors are not good salespeople. Man, you know, I have a completely different experience with my manifestor because of his ability to be that loving person, okay? And he also has this channel of the prodigal. So it's not as though he's a manifestor through the, you know, the traditional manifestor channels. So really the anger, he's not carrying any anger. It doesn't, you know, that anger that happens in these three channels is none of that. But he's got these two gates of loving in this closed and repelling aura that is here to initiate, and he listens. Oh my goodness, the stories that people tell him. So it's a completely different energetic. So his loving nature, you know, people, like, he has connections all over. He spends more time on the phone listening to people than, you know, I have, you know, ever in my whole lifetime. So that's why it is so important to understand the generalities that happen. And hey, I do too on my YouTube channel. The generalities that are there, that is just a generality, okay? So let's look at the 15. The 15 is loving humanity. And right now, at this time in 2020, as I record this, the nodal configuration is there in the nodes of the transits. You know, loving humanity. And right now, civilization is literally like, it's nasty what's happening out there. I don't ever experience any of that because, you know, I have this loving husband, and it doesn't appear in my life. So in the 15, we come to the love in the second quarter of initiation or civilization. This is the form of love, and the form of love is very specific. It's called human. That's the form of love. You're in it. You're sitting in it. You're breathing on the other side here. Okay? So the breath of love is the form itself. So God literally breathed love into your meat suit. Transcendent love is a love that created us. So we have this worship of the Creator theme, and it is the form. The first love is initiation, but the second love that you have to live it out as human, love of humanity, love being human. This is the politician, kissing all the hands, you know, of those that come out to vote for them, you know, just so that they get elected. We can show this loving for humanity by building hospitals, by building schools. Again, here we are, right here, this 15, loving humanity. It is in the logical circuitry. It's designed to move us into the future. It is, the 15-5 is in every single living thing because it is the self. This is about loving humanity. And why do we talk about the politician? Because if we move here to the 731, that's the political leadership that gets invited, this democratic leadership. So we have to get this love logically. So let's organize humanity So they are more loving towards one another. The minute that humanity is being organized to hate itself, looks different. That looks like riots. When we organize ourselves to have loving towards one another, that looks like an off-the-grid commune where you have like-minded people, blah, 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 okay? It's completely different aspects. That's why this is called the gate of extremes. So the transpersonal love or hate for humanity, this is the gate of extremes, and as the not-self, this will create concentration camps, and we will kill those that don't love the same way we do. So when the 5 can fix the correct pattern, humanity can organize correctly, and we experience tolerance. This is an impersonal gate. These people will be loving as long as you are operating correctly according to their collective vision of how human beings are supposed to get along. So here we have the form, love being human, and loving humanity. Okay? Now, as we move on to the 46, here is loving the body. And that loving of the body is actually, the body is the temple, the love of the body. So this is loving the body. So this third quarter of duality and bonding holds the 46th gate, this transpersonal love of the body, this extraordinary environment, okay? So why are we still talking about the body? So we talked about the form down here of the 15. That's because it's in the quarter of civilization, the quarter of the form. But when we move up here, what's so important right here is to understand that the 46 kicks off, per se, all of the 7 gates of the splenic center. And the splenic center is our immune system. So, as we watch the movement through the quarters, you start off with this love of everything, then you move to this love of being a part of the species, and then you move to this personal body. This movement is going deeper into the fractal of what it is to be us. Again, the 515 is the cell. The 46 is this loving of the body. So the 46th gate is deeply connected to all the fears of the splenic system. Fear is expressed through the body of the 46. Once we take this love transcendently, we can actually stop hurting it. The body, the vessel, these are magical vehicles. The transcendent fear is to accept the beauty of the body and accepting its perfection. Accept your type and your strategy. There is refinement that happens in the body when you trust your type and your strategy. You no longer have to build up layers of calluses because you are not meeting resistance all the time. This literally will change your body. Sometimes the body changes on the outside, and sometimes the body changes on the inside. On the other end is the 29. It's ready to make a commitment. Then all of a sudden, this love tries to be personal, and it doesn't work. I already gave you guys that example. I have the 29. My husband has the 46. 20 years of, trying to make this personal. It isn't personal. Can't be personal from him at all. So this can bring great confusion on a personal level about the commitment. So just discover the magic of the vehicle in everyone and discover the loving of your own vehicle. Do not try to demonstrate through personal love that the other should love your vehicle. Just be loving of your own vehicle. Now, again, like I said, my husband does not actually love his own vehicle, but he can be loving through my vehicle. You know, you're doing it through someone else to get to that transcendent love. Would it be better if he loved his body and was able to take care of himself and would eat properly and would, you know, quit polluting his lungs and his liver? Yeah, for sure. But that's his trip. It's not my trip. It's not my trip. And what's so insane is that this guy never gets sick either. So, you know, it's about pulling out, like watching these things happen, right? It's just watching it. I just watch him. I can't, again, I do, like, you know, I do nag at him. There are times that I nag at him. I'm like, you know, do you know how much different it would be in your experience if? But he has to come to that as an innovator, as a manifester, as someone, you know, he's got two individual gates in his, or channels in his design. He's not designed to take on mutative energy from me. Especially as a manifester, he's definitely not designed that way. He also is very deaf when it comes to other people. So he has to come to this realization on his own and come to this loving of his own vessel on his own. In the meantime, the loving takes place through me. So the 10th gate. So here we come to the love of the 4th quarter. This is the most aloof and distant of the transcendent gates of love. This is the gate that the vessel of love pours out of. Okay? So the vessel of love, so say this is the handle. Here we have this nice little cup of love here. And the 10th gate pours it out. This is the spirit of life. So the 10th gate is only, the 10th gate is also integration. So it is the most individual. Now what is integration? We have the 57 to the 10, the 34 up to the 20, the 34 over to the 57, and the 10 to the 20. So there are the 4 channels that are there and the 4 different gates. Now the 3410 and the 5720, that's a different story. Okay, that's not integration, that is just in the individual circuitry or in the centuries. This is the most individual, the most melancholic, and the most self-absorbed aspect. Why? Well, it is centering. It is integration. It is very, very personal. It is the, this vessel of love. It's very individual. I shouldn't say personal. It's very individual. It's your own individuated behavior. So this actual gate seldom, it's pulled into personal love because it can be so self-absorbed. And to go deeper, this gate is both anti-mundane and mundane. So the anti-mundane is about being in the world. It's about loving being in the world. It's about loving, living, and dying in the world. And it's also about being alive in the world. So something that you may or may not know, and this aspect eventually, I have a sense, will be in the self-mastery movement. But the 10th gate, every time it goes through, the moon goes through the 10th gate every single month, there's a decision for every human being on the planet, whether or not they're willing to stay. Because there's a whole death sequence that takes place. Just like there's an entire, pregnancy and creation piece that can take place through the human design bodygraph. It's all been mapped out through Ra and his doctors and biologists and naturopaths. There is also a whole death path, and it all begins with the 10. So this is really about, being alive in the world and deciding to be dead in the world. Okay? So knowing the world, the humans of the world, is most likely a killing ground and has so much ugliness. And yet, loving being in it. Love the world. This is not about moral judgments. It's definitely not wanting to fix it. This is surrendering to the actual precariousness of life. Accepting the world we are in. To accept the world is to accept the truth. We do not control any of this. It is not our world to play with. Just isn't. We are of this world. We are just simply of it. I love the world and I hate the world, right? We hear people say that all the time. I say it all the time. Oh, I love this. You see a lovely kitty video online. It's like, oh, the world is all good. And then you scroll through your Facebook page again and there's some, rioting happening. It's like, oh, I hate the world. So it is to accept what it is what it is. And it's going to go on. It's going to go where it needs to go. When you accept that, the world has a behavior. This is where we wake up. So again, let's talk about the mystical way. The 49, not 46. The 19, 49, 37, 40, 51, 25, 10, 20. We are not in charge. There's a lot happening there. Now let's look at this next slide. Okay, so this just shows you this is transcendent love. So I'm just giving you like a quick sheet so that you can pull it up anytime. Now let's go to the mundane love, okay? There's 7 gates here. These 7 gates are the most intense electromagnetic or compromise in a chart. So once we get to the experimental piece, I want you guys to really pull this up and recognize them, okay? These are the deepest themes that we experience as love, and we experience these themes of love very specifically because each of these gates has its own dynamic, its own unique expression. So remember, we are breaking this down to then synthesize it within a chart later, okay? The complexity of how it plays out and is expressed in your chart will present itself, okay? This is the personal love. This is the love we experience with the other. If the gate is in an undefined center, it will play out differently than if it is in a defined center. Personal love is not as easy as anti-mundane, where the expression is loving. Personal love brings demands. These gates pull us into the other so that something is achieved in the connection. So we are going to go back to the 10th gate. We saw this as anti-mundane and the theme of loving. This is about, love being in the world. The mundane theme is to love yourself. Now, very often, including myself, I say that a lot. That this gate is to love yourself. Because it is very self-absorbed. It's about, your own behavior. So it's about loving your design, loving your frequency, and not trying to make excuses for it. So the combination is to love being in the world as yourself and loving that person who is in the world. So this gate is deeply individual, and yet they are waiting to be able to discover love of themselves through the other. This is not about waiting for someone to love you. This is not, that of course, most of how we love in the world is all non-self. Because of course the personal connection brings these demands. So this is the desperation of the not-self to find someone to love them. Can't survive without you. Or the not-self trip that looks up at the 20 and says, I love you because you woke me up. Or to the 57, oh, I love you because you taught me perfect love. And without you, I just can't survive. Or the 35, I love you because you help me live out what I know is right for me. When the not self is dependent, love becomes lost. When the true self is saying these same things, there is this love that said, I am glad you are here with me so I can experience this. I find my behavior, my form, my convictions with you. It's not because of them, it is with them. That's what feels so personal. You find this person, it feels like the one, when really, you're connecting with them and there becomes this, co-creation of it. But don't let the not self get so caught up in it that it is dishonoring the inner authority. That's the key factor. Oops. Sorry. So, gate 44, successful love. This is the love of talent. The not self says, I will love you because we are successful. Mostly it's speaking in terms of wealth and stuff like that. This is the age-old adage where the male is the breadwinner and the woman is at home. One brings in the money and the other does not. The not self wants to say that whoever is actually generating the money owns the money. So you're nothing without me. We hear that, this is the age-old story that we see. The true self knows we cannot be successful without each other. We just can't be. We need each other, period. So the love here is about talent. Whether your talent is supportive inside the house so the other person can work outside the house, or whether the outside work is successful only because the quality of the partner, it becomes a shared wealth, a shared program. 44. What do we know about this gate, you guys? First, it's a part of capitalism. Second, it is our liquid memory. There's lots of memory within there. And it's tribal. Support, support, support. I find success with you. Now, why are we talking about success? Well, it's a projected channel, so it's all about invitation. Wealth does improve love. This does not mean just because that you are rich that there is love. But when both sides of support are coming together to enjoy in the mutualness of the wealth, this is love. This is the healthy kind of love. And the fear of the past and the strong must bond with the weak for the survival of the species. The success itself creates the aura of love and a sense of well done, a sense of leaving fears behind, and a sense of successfully moving into the future. So we know this. Those, couples that are, living paycheck to paycheck and struggling and fighting and having a heck of a time, the relationship doesn't feel successful. But if there's mutual support there, let me tell you this, I know lots of people who have lived very moderately, and they're not making tons of money, but they live within their means and there's success there. Usually what happens here is when people don't live within their means, and then all of a sudden one is blaming the other for whatever reason. You know, the mail comes, you know, of course, let me know, like, you know, I'm just using this as stereotypical, okay? This isn't, I'm just giving you a broad example. You know, the man, he goes out and he works, and he's working 60 hours a week. And he begins to become bitter, right? Here we are in this channel, and it's projected, there's bitterness there. And he's bitter because he's exhausted. He would like to be able to stay at home because he thinks, the wife's not doing nothing. She's sitting on the couch watching soap operas. Now, again, this is just a story, right? And the wife's at home, holding down the fort, running the kids around, making sure the house is clean, paying the bills, getting the groceries, you know, connecting with family and friends because the husband's always working, and keeping that connection alive. So there's support there. If he didn't have her at home doing all of that, who would do that? And here's what the other thing that's so important as well. I come from a financial background, so I worked in a financial institution. What I saw more often than not was on loans where the man was never, ever, ever willing to pay for the disability or the life insurance on a loan. And that gave me a clear indication of the perceived value that he had for his wife. Just for a moment, you know, whoever's out being the breadwinner, if you had to pay for somebody to cook and clean and be a nanny and run children and, you know, pay bills and get groceries and do everything, that person at home, if they are not doing all of that, there cannot be support. So if you lose any aspect of this, there is no success. So know that this relationship is designed to connect. And it's designed to connect with this 26, which is all about the egotism, right? It's the materialism. It's on the materialism plane. 26, 44, this 40 and this 37, anything tribal is material. This is going to be a very material relationship. It's not good. It's not bad. It is what it is. But there has to be mutual support in it in order for it to be successful. Now, this is something that I know way too well. This is this 40, and the 40 is about earning love. Again, we have an ego gate. So the 40 is the stomach. In human design, you know, if we look at the biology piece of this, the not self says, I am doing all of this for you, so you better love me. Let me tell you, I know this story well. It runs through my brain. So my not self will say, you know, I did all this for you, blah, blah, blah. I supported you, blah, blah, blah. Oh, goodness, my husband has heard that from me lots. The true self knows it is working for the other. So it just, you know, it just does it. It doesn't need to say it. This is the gate of deliverance, and it is here to provide. But remember, the ego needs to rest. The moment there is somebody to love, this gate just takes on its natural tendency, and it will take care of what it needs, you know, to be worked on. The tribal aspect of love is teaching us that love and money and wealth are hand in hand. This love is fulfilled when the appreciation, you know, a stomach full, or, you know, a full stomach, a supportive partner is in your life. It is just what it is. You know, it is just what it is on the other end. So my husband doesn't have the 37, but he is my family. You know, my sisters, my nieces, my nephews. You know, I work so that I can have the wealth And then I can support my family with that will. And in turn, when there's appreciation, feels so yummy. Feels so yummy. And how my husband actually appreciates me, let's just pop over here, just so that you can just see some of these things and watch how these nuances work. So I am a manifesting generator, so an express builder. I have a 1-3 profile or public role. The 40th gate is a gate of aloneness. It's about denying or delivering. Again, that 1-3 profile, bonds made and bonds broken. So I literally work, like I have helped him build his dream. He wanted a cattle ranch. That was always what he wanted. I work every day for that dream. And what he does in return, he's loving towards me. But what he does is he breaks his bond with me every day. So he will leave the house. He will go be in his cave of the tractor or the truck or the shop so that I can then work. So that's his appreciation towards me. He literally lets me be me. I have said literally about 70,000 times today. But he lets me be me. He does never, ever, ever try to change me. He recognizes me deeply, but he also knows that I'm there to support him. And in order for him to show me love, he's loving towards me, through me, and he breaks his bond with me so that I get to have my own space to be me, so that I can be alone. So again, it's fascinating to watch how these things show up. And he has the 46, right? This is this whole loving the body. Well, he has never, ever, ever once, complained or, made digs at me about how much money I actually spend to keep my vessel at prime levels. I buy very expensive food. I high vibe, high energy, all of that kind of stuff. Never ever complained about it because I work for him. I've earned that love, or that loving, I guess you could say. Now we come to the 58. Now the 58 is perfecting love. Remember, this is the channel of judgment. This is correcting patterns. The joyous is the deepest memory of love that humanity carries. The 18 on the other side is the challenge of the mother-father and challenging the archetype of mother-father. This is the love that comes out of being connected by the other. I want to experiment to perfect it. This is the collective love, the demonstration of this love to correct love, to improve love. It's improvement for the other, not for the one who sees it. The correction is for the benefit of the other. It is not for the one pointing out the correction. So this is not personal, it is collective. This is what is wrong, and I'm telling you because I love you. This is really what love is to them. They show you the dirt that is there, and this is, this love. The not self says you should do this or you should do that. When you're correct, it is your natural tendency to correct the other. It's not conditioning, it's improvement. So a love that is correcting the other, this is a part of the cross of service. It is being of service to all of us. This is the logical love that needs experimentation to correct it as we move into the future. At a mystical level, this is the love that proves the strength of love, the mutual acceptance of the experiment, improving the techniques of love. How to be a better lover, how to be a better partner. There's zillions of books written about this. This is the 58 trying to correct us, trying to get us to that correct love, challenging us to be better. It is because they love you, not because they need anything. It's because they love you. Logic says love is an experiment, and this experiment is to be perfected, and this is where we get therapies and philosophies to improve. So, the 58, their love is perfecting you. I just, had a couple that came to me, and she's like, I feel like he's constantly nitpicking at me. Yep, he is. He's trying to perfect the love. And it isn't, like I say, it's not about the shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's just this natural correction. So you're sitting at a table together, and you're all having supper, and the wife's eating, and she gets something on her face, and her husband's like, immediately, you have something on your chin. It's about this perfection, perfecting. How to be a better lover. So trying to perfect their love together. But it feels very nitpicky, because that's what the 5818 does. It feels very nitpicky because it's perfecting the love forever. Don't take it personally. This is collective. Collective's not personal. The 41, I love this one. I love when, Ra talks about it because he had it in his chart. So this is the initiating codon. Remember that. 41 starts everything. So this is like the capital letter of a sentence. This is how the DNA knows that there's a new code coming. This is the initiating codon, okay? So this is where everything begins. It initiates our human experiential way. Again, we're talking about collective. This is abstract love, it's experiencing. And love is an experience that includes sex. This is where love and sex are bound together. And it infects all other kinds of love, as it is the beginning of it all. Now, we haven't even talked about sex or sexuality. That's coming. But I want you to understand that this is the only gate that mixes love and sex. This is the pressure to desire. I want to feel it. I want to experience it. I can't experience love without sex. That's the pressure. So the most difficult thing for this love is to not have sex with the other. Because through sex we find love. It isn't, if it's in an undefined center, every single time you have sex, you think it's love. Right now, humans are ruled by desire and expectation, and that's what it is to be human. 41 starts in all. So sex and love are intertwined. Again, only in this gate. So if this is a defined, if this is in a defined center, that's totally different. You're designed to feel love. And sex can be a great part of that. Why are we talking about feeling? 41 is pointed over to 30. This is the channel of recognition, right? This channel of recognizing this feeling. This is fantasy. This is imagination. So the dilemma is that the quality of the intimacy and the quality of the sexuality is just determining the level of love in a relationship. There's 6 other gates of mundane love that hold nothing sexually. So the Hollywood portrayal of this really is a killer. That's why we become marginalized. The love of this allows you to fantasize about sex and the loves you cannot have. This is why porn, smut novels, romance novels, you do this with someone else. And you walk the road with someone else because this is collective. The joy is that your fantasies are deep and rich, and it does not mean that there is anything wrong with your relationship. The other loves that you are able to fantasize inside your head and never touch. So the not self here is where the pressure to play out the fantasy becomes a problem. This is a collective, and at the at some level, we are all connected in realms that we are not even able to comprehend. These are deep, deep fantasies. The fantasy creates perfection, as the 58 and the 41 are mirrors. So here's what the two of them say, this collective energy. I love you, you are imperfect, and I'm going to correct you. That's what the 58 says. The 41 says, I love you, you are imperfect, I am going to fantasize with someone else. So Ra has the 41 in an undefined open route. He talked about this, quite extensively, throughout his time in human design. And he, is the first one to admit, he fucked everything. And he thought it was love. He was constantly being pulled in. He was constantly, trying to get rid of this pressure that is built up in all of these desires. And he thought, well, if I just have sex and ejaculate, I can get rid of this desire, what's always going to present itself. So if you have the 41 root, no, you are designed to have these desires and fantasize, right? You're designed to do that. You are designed to have a feeling, and that feeling can come through sex. However, be very aware of this. I know lots of 4130s that cheat on their spouses continuously because they cannot comprehend that it's okay to have fantasies and never, ever, ever go out and have outside marital sex. And the thing is, if this is, in your spouse's design, honor their fantasies. Honor, that they want to, watch porn and fantasize and pay attention to that. Pay attention. I'm not saying, they should be porn addicts. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is that it is just natural for them to have this fantasy. And if we shame them for it, and here we are, this is our starting codon. This is, the very foundational level of what it is to be a human and experiment in this world, is to fuck and feel love from it. All of a sudden, that shame then puts these people in a closet, which then they do very perverse things. The 58 has lots of perversity in there. So, if it's in an undefined center, know that everybody you meet, you do not have to have sex with. It's not what this is about. You can fantasize about them. That's all good. But in order to, connect in a relationship, you have to follow strategy and authority. Or else it's going to be wrong. Or else you're going to completely regret it. Or else, the pressure builds up again and you just want to orgasm to let it go. If it's in a defined center, again, you're built to fantasize. That correct expression of love and sex will present itself through the correctness of strategy and authority. And if you have the full channel, same thing. But if you're in a committed relationship, it doesn't mean that everybody that you're meeting, you should have sex with to find love. Now, again, remember what's happening on the other side. This nitpicking, perfecting and perfecting and perfecting. Like what a story here, right? And then judgment becomes morality. You have a moral problem if you're watching porn. You have a moral problem if you're fantasizing about somebody else. Just let them fantasize. You don't need to perfect that piece of them. How to perfect love is let each person love how they need to be loved, or need to love and be loved. Now we go to the individual aspects here. Individuality, what do we have here? Individuality, this 28, this love or purpose, love and purpose, right? We're in the channel of struggle. This is this, tenacity, this tenaciousness to, be stubborn enough to find and enjoy your own purpose, right? So the individuality is a mutative force in us always. It is the chemistry of melancholy that has the creative potential within each individual activation. All individuality, romance begins with what you don't have. So the 20 begins with, hey, there's no purpose. I need to find my purpose. You must be in the mood and you have to find passion. And you must be able to express your own unique creativity. And love is not love unless you make it sad. These are the people that are, individuals, that melancholic energy. It, writes these very gut-wrenching poems and these unrequited, love novels. That's what it does here. This is a love that struggles for purpose, and it struggles with someone. Again, I know lots of these people, and their, life is a struggle. But when they can find someone, if somebody comes into their life and can honor that melancholy, can honor that struggle, that's love. So there's no struggle, there's no love. There is love, there must be struggle until there is a purpose. Purpose happens or not, and it is the pulse of the circuitry. For the not self, this is where romance and melancholy become depression and suicide. To be free of fear is through purpose, and here it is to find purpose through love with another. Again, the fighter, right? This 38, that's the fighter. The 28, that's the risk taker. The spleen makes us feel good or not. It is a love that can be difficult, the love that is always correcting you, right? Because the 58 and the 40, or the 58 and the 18 are a part of, moving that towards the spleen. It's hard to accept that the struggle you are having is actually the reality of your love. These are the couples that they fight a lot. But through that, and I mean I mean verbal, acoustic, because this is individual. They fight with words. This isn't like physical. The gate of the risk taker, it's dangerous to take risks. The struggle makes it worthwhile as the purpose unfolds together, and underneath this struggle is always I don't know. The individual is always saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, hey, I know, hey, I know. So love allows us to accept what is real and what our limitation is with the other. If you are correct and your way is to struggle to find purpose through love, it will be right for you, and you will get through that satori. You will get to the purposefulness. And don't confuse this passion to struggle with sex. If the sex isn't good, then not self will lead. Remember, this is the passion in the individual circuitry. And that passion that, they're going along, they're very even keel, and then there's these spikes up and spikes down. Mostly spikes down because of the melancholy. And what passion is doing is it's like this building of tension, that always happens in the individual circuitry. And then they have sex, and it's like, ugh, that sucked. There's no romance. Ugh. And all of a sudden they leave. So the beauty in this is to be in the struggle and witness the purposefulness of the relationship. On the not self, that not self ugliness, this is where the acoustic and the words and the relationship tear each other apart. So we can see two different things happening here, right? Those people that, they fight with words and language, and in the end there's a purpose to all of that. Or it's the ones that literally rip each other apart verbally, and then they go their separate ways. Individuality is the potential for something to emerge. Collective is what has been and what will be, but the individual, it's in the now, it's right now. We have no idea what individual struggle will bring us 5 seconds from now, because it's just now. This is the only individual gate that knows the mutation of the individual must be shared, and that you find truth through and with the other. This is where the yin and the yang are designed to work it out, to come to a greater truth and a greater purpose. What we're going to recognize when we walk into the caring piece of this is how this 28 plays such an important role in the integration. So the uniqueness here is that the 28 can bond without losing its uniqueness. It sits in the quarter of duality. It empowers each other to find their own purpose. So, this is that fighting in a relationship can be love. It is a correct, if it is correct for those struggles, they're wonderfully empowering. Not everything will feel good. There are moments in the struggle that you wish were not there, but how will you take the risk to find the passion and the purpose? Love is for those that are awake. 28s are saying we have to find this love together. The struggle isn't to find love. The struggle is to live out what you are, and the love is there. The struggle is to get to the knowing. Now we're going to take a look at the very last one in the love aspect, in the mundane love aspect, before we move on to the caring and the sexuality. So the 55, it's indecisive. This is the gate in the emotional center that is under tremendous mutative pressure right now. The process of a new kind of awareness. It is not dominated by the emotional wave, that motor of the emotional system, but an awareness rooted in the vast neural intelligence of the solar plex system. The abundance, the spirit of this gate is not actually there yet, as it is in this cross of the sleeping phoenix. So right now we're sitting in the cross of planning, in this global orchestrated directory, and the cross of the sleeping phoenix, it's coming. The spirit will, be adjusting. So the 55th gate is the moodiest, and it never knows anything for sure. Do you love me? I don't know. Do you hate me? I don't know. And because of this indecision, there's rooted lots of deep eating disorders here and emotional breakdowns. So individuality is not sexy. It is creative. Love carries a mystery. The not self gets angry because you can't decide if you love them or not. The correct love shows up, honors your spirit, and is with you in the wave of the I don't knows. So if you have one of these people in your life, you have one of these people that has this 55. Know that their love is eternally indecisive. They're going through massive amounts of indecision right now. And that indecision is from this mutative energy that is taking place in this gate, in the histidine of the 55, which is then going to spill out into the 49, which then is breaking that tribal ceremony. But the 55 is going to be indecisive. It's indecisive love. And the only way to be correct in your love is to find the person that has no attachment to your indecision and honors your spirit all the time. Even though your spirit at this point in time is going up and it's going down in this, wave of spikes and crashes that happen in the emotional system of the individual. This melancholy, these beings are deeply, deeply melancholic. And the romance, right? It's acoustic. The 28 and the 55, acoustic love. The 10 is also acoustic. So if you have these people, know they are connecting with them and honoring your mood. And know if you are the 55, never, ever, ever adjust your mood to fulfill somebody else's needs. So just as a, so that you have a whole picture of it, here is the picture of the mundane love. So what I'm going to do is we're going to stop this module. We're already at, quite a ways. So that we can then move on to the sexuality, which is all about the sexuality piece and the caring piece. That one's going to be a long one as well. All right.